All right, welcome back on SportsBit. Betting and Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, hope you had a good weekend. Monday, May 16th. Deep Dive's going to be the Western Conference Finals. We'll preview OKC and Golden State. Big game breakdown coming up, of course, the play of the day. College football games of the year, about 40 of them released here in Las Vegas on Friday. We'll get to that in a few minutes. We start with bad bets. The Heat get blown out in Game 7. Raptors make the conference finals for the first time, and Toronto got to the free throw line 43 times. They beat the Heat by 20 on the boards, and this thing got out of hand in the fourth quarter, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, it really got ugly for Miami late. Less than 48 hours of turnaround time for the Heat, and once things started to get away from Miami, they just had nothing left in the tank. And look, the crappy Raptors are now in the Eastern Conference Finals, just like the crappy Hawks were last year. Cleveland has not been tested here in the postseason, and judging by the opening price for the next series they'll be involved with, they're not likely to be tested in that series either. The Cavs, 11-1, minus 1,100. I've seen minus 1,200s here in Las Vegas. Take back on Toronto, a plus 750. The Raptors become one of only 15 teams in NBA history to win a pair of Game 7s in the same postseason. But as you mentioned, the key stats, plus 20 on the glass, plus 20 at the free throw line in terms of attempts. And, of course, that was all that they needed to beat a Heat team that was missing Boss, was missing Whiteside, and didn't have anything left in the tank on that short turnaround time.
Heat the first team to win Game 7 by 20 and lose Game 7 by 20 in the same postseason. What do you think of the series price and Game 1, Cavs 10.5?
Well, I mean, here's a quote from Dwayne Casey. Quote, "I think this group is hungry. Never say never." And there's something to be said for that. I mean, they are hungry. I would never say never, but I don't give Toronto any more than a puncher's chance in the series. Now, they did break the 100-point barrier for the first time in 9 games in game number 7 against the Heat. That snapped a season-worst streak. And it's also worth noting that the Raptors haven't lost back-to-back games since March 23rd and March 25th. Obviously, if the Cavs are going to win this series, Toronto's going to have to lose back-to-back games. But, the Raptors won 2 out of 3 in the regular season. That's relatively meaningless at this stage of the campaign. My gut reaction says I'm going to look for overs in this series. I mean, Toronto's guards, it feels like they've finally woken up. And the Raptors' front court is not going to be able to match up, I don't think, particularly well with the Cavs' front court. But if Lowry and DeRozan are playing at the level they played over the last couple of games, snapping out of that funk, I think they'll be able to score some points against the Cavs, and that gives them a puncher's chance in a couple of games, maybe.
We'll preview that series tomorrow. More bad bets. They bet the Red Sox under. What are they doing? At 6 straight overs, this team is mashing right now.
Well, with 6 straight overs going into the game, now it's 7 straight overs. But what are they doing? They're betting, it's Sunday. Big Pappy's going to sit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't matter. 10.5 bet down to 10. And I understand that the markets work on information. If you have information that Big Pappy's sitting and the markets don't see it, maybe you want to put some under money in there. But, the way that Boston is hitting right now, that game flew over 10.5 by the third inning.
Yes.
And, of course, no Big Pappy, no biggie. Ryan Hannigan and Josh Rutledge, end of the bench guys. 6 hits. Hannigan himself drove in 4 runs. Look at that photo. The backup catcher gets the job done and kills the wise guys on this one.
Another under. They bet the Reds and Phillies under. Never a shot.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to catch me betting any Reds games under.
No.
It's just not going to happen. But they bet the crap out of that. I mean, went 8.5 all the way down to 7.5. Of course, Sunday scratches, and that's not unusual for the day games. You'll see key members of lineups that are going to be sitting, and then the markets react accordingly. But, I mean, Adam Morgan got roughed up. It's not like he's been an ace-level hurler at the beginning of the campaign anyway, a guy with a lot of promise, but he couldn't get out of the 4th inning. And, of course, the Reds bullpen, the Reds bullpen only gave up 4 in this one, Pauly, so the under was not in play. And, of course, the Reds 20-14 to the over, only because that team can't hit. If they ever start hitting, they'll go over every game.
What's with the Starbucks? You get rid of the tea and Captain Morgan?
The Captain Morgan. Yeah, like I'm going to spice up my tea this early. Not happening, unfortunately, I'm afraid. But, it's just a Starbucks morning. You know how it is. Once in a while, you got to change things up. And, I was under-caffeinated. Not anymore, my friend. This stuff jacks you up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good for you. All right, good. Need to be fired up. Friday on my radio show, I talked to Chris Andrews, head guy at the South Point here in Las Vegas. Friday they came out with the college football games of the year, about 40 games. The Golden Nugget will release about 130 the first week of July. Chris Andrews told me they have Alabama power rated number 1, Oklahoma number 2. And then the pros came in and bet against Oklahoma. They were 9 at home against Ohio State. That was bet down to 7. They were 14 against Texas. That was bet down to 11. And some of the marquee games, September 17th, Notre Dame is 6 against Michigan State. I mentioned that Oklahoma-Ohio State game. Bama 3 at Ole Miss. October 29th, Clemson was the favorite at Florida State. They came in and bet Florida State. They're now the favorite in that one. Baylor 4.5 at Texas. Michigan 2 at Michigan State. Also October 15th, Ohio State 3 at Whiskey. Stanford, Notre Dame. Notre Dame a 1-point favorite in that one. Bama 3.5 at Tennessee. November 12th, LSU 5.5 at Arkansas. Oregon 1.5 at home to Stanford. And some of the other marquee games. Ohio State 6.5 at home to Michigan. Bama 18 against Auburn. USC 6.5 at home against Notre Dame. Great job by these guys to get that out early. $1,000 limits. You could bet on your mobile app. So they said, hey, come on, we're open for business. Take a shot here, Teddy.
Yeah, and first of all, Chris Andrews, of course, a friend of SBR, a friend of this show, a guy who I've respected as a lines maker dating back to his tenure all the way up in Reno, and a good human being as well. So I like to give him credit when he does good work, and they've done good work here. Interesting to note, I mean, Alabama, I can tell you right now, Alabama's going to be number 1 in the power ratings that started this year. They're going to be number 1 in the power ratings started next year. They're going to be number 1 in the power ratings the year after, and so on down the line. It is a dynasty for the Crimson Tide right now. And when you look at the recruiting rankings, it's not even close. I mean, Alabama laps the field when it comes to overall talent. They'll continue to be a difficult team for a guy like me to support on a week-in, week-out basis because you just have to lay a premium to do it. There is no, you're not going to find extra value on Alabama, not on the future board, not on the games of the year board, and not really on a week-to-week basis. Interesting to know that they bet against Oklahoma, and that's certainly not anything I would disagree with. The Sooners are, how do I phrase it nicely, perennial underachievers. Last year was as good as it gets.
Losing
Oklahoma.
big games, yeah.
Yeah, and when it mattered the most, they came up short against Clemson. But the thing that stands out to me, 2 lines really stand out that you mentioned, Pauly, as you were reading off those numbers. One of them was Michigan -2 at Michigan State.
Yep.
Of course, we all remember how that game ended last year. Wolverines come in with a little bit of revenge. That's one where they'll have a chip on their shoulder. But the fact that they're laying in East Lansing, Michigan State's no pushover, not even maybe. And then, of course, the other one being Michigan going to Ohio State and less than a touchdown. The Buckeyes favored by less than a touchdown in that game. Wolverines definitely getting respect from the betting markets here in the offseason. And I know Michigan's going to be pretty good, but I wonder if they are a little bit something of an overvalued commodity right now. These numbers tell me that they are.
And I know Urban Meyer's a great coach, but they put a ton of guys in the NFL off that team last year as well. Big game.
Yeah, but the Buckeyes are like Alabama. The recruiting rankings are so far, they lap the field in the Big Ten every year. I don't worry about them sending a ton of talent to the NFL. They have plenty of talent right behind them.
Big game breakdown up next. We'll start with game 1 tonight. Western Conference Finals, OKC and the Warriors. That's coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much more.
Here we go. Big game breakdown. Live odds. Remember, go to sportsbookreview.com. Warriors 7.5, 223.5 the total. Golden State swept OKC during the regular season, 3-0, but OKC was either tied or had the lead in every game in the fourth quarter. 116-108 and 127-106 in Golden State. The one game at OKC was that epic Saturday night game when Curry went nuts late, 121-118 in overtime. In that game, the Warriors won, but OKC beat them by 30 on the boards. So they slowed it down, went toe-to-toe and knocked off San Antonio, but now they might have to speed up the tempo against Golden State because, that's what they want to do in this one, Teddy. And again, the series price, plus 450 was available about Friday night, Saturday afternoon, and now you're seeing $4 as their little buyback. They're starting to take OKC with the series price.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the series and really take a deep dive into it in the final segment of today's show. For the purposes of this, we want to talk about Game 1. And really, when it comes to Game 1, I mean, we're talking about the four of the best players in the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, and all of them going head-to-head against one another. But the first question, Westbrook and Curry, is this going to be a head-to-head matchup? I don't think so. I don't think that Steve Kerr is going to use Curry much at all on defense against Westbrook. He can hide him against Andre Roberson, who doesn't bring anything on the offensive end. Deion Waiters is just a spot shooter. He's not a guy who's going to create and penetrate. And Curry won't have to use a ton of defensive energy against those guys. Klay Thompson's likely to draw Westbrook first. And possibly we could see more Sean Livingston than usual. And of course, Andre Iguodala, last year's Finals MVP and a very versatile defender, could definitely spend some time trying to stay in front of one of the quickest point guards in the NBA.
Well, also, Bogut's going to be big in this series, too. If Golden State's going to go small, OKC has to punish him, like they punished San Antonio on the boards, and they did an excellent job, as we mentioned earlier, on the glass in the 3 meetings. So how does Adams do in this series? And, you mentioned Iguodala, the wild card, but also, is Bogut 100%, and how long will Kerr play him?
Well, I mean, so many factors here. All right, let me start with Steph Curry. You have to wonder, now, Golden State obviously lost Curry for the vast majority of the first 2 series. Could that injury now be viewed as a plus? He's fresher now than anybody on the floor, and everyone else on the floor is confident that they can win without him when he sits. All right? Now, you talked about Iguodala, as someone who's a defensive wild card. At crunch time, he could be on Westbrook or Durant, and that's his versatility. The other question is, from the start, do we see Draymond Green on Durant, or is Kerr going to save that matchup for endgame situations so that Green doesn't use his energy early on? You talk about Bogut. Bogut's got a strained right abductor. He didn't practice on Sunday. As a defender, he matters for Golden State. But, of course, there's the Harrison Barnes issue. Barnes could be more aggressive on offense. He's got to make Durant work harder, and they can tire him out. And, Robertson try to scrap against Curry. I mean, obviously he provides nothing on the offensive end. Curry can get a break there, but when it comes to lockdown defenders for Oklahoma City, Robertson's as good as it gets trying to defend their opponent's best guard.
Yep. Surprised at the total? The Westgate opened 232 in Game 1.
Well, we talked about this series has to be, totaled as high as anything you're going to see.
Yep.
And the fact that Westgate obviously totaled it a little bit higher than the market doesn't mean that that's a bad number necessarily. It means they had a different opinion early on, but obviously that number did not last. Market significantly lower. But, we talked about this last week, that we wouldn't be shocked to see 230s in this series, and we could still see them.
Game 2, Red Sox, Royals, a little Major League Baseball now. Red Sox $1.15, 8 the total. Porcello against Ventura. Ortiz, what a season this guy's having. They sat him, as we mentioned yesterday. They still scored 10 runs. Boston, number 1 in offense, second in on-base percentage, number 1 in slugging. And look at Big Poppy's numbers. His average, his on-base percentage, his slugging, 10 home runs, 33 RBIs if you look at this graphic. What a year this guy's having, and he's leading the way for this Boston offense.
Yeah, I mean, the Red Sox are the best lineup in baseball, period, right now. And frankly, it's not even that close. I mean, Big Pappy sits. They scored 10 runs anyway. You showed the numbers. You talked about the Red Sox and what their offense looks like. Number 1 in average, 2 in on-base, 1 in slugging percentage. That is not an easy matchup for Yordano Ventura. His season's spinning out of control a little bit the last few starts. He's 3-2 in his decisions, but his ERA, 4.62. His FIP, fielding independent pitching, 5.43. Those are career worst numbers, and it's mostly due to control issues. Look at the graph. His career, he's given up 3.6 walks per 9 innings. Last year, that was down to 3.2. So far this year, he's at 6.8 walks. The guy can't find home plate. He's dancing around the edges. 103 pitchers have thrown enough innings to qualify for the lead in Major League Baseball. And Ventura's 6.8 walks per 9 innings, dead last out of those 103 pitches by a mile. The next guy down on the list is Francisco Liriano at 5.2, and he's been effectively wild. And let's not forget, Ventura is going to be asked to stretch this game out because KC used a bullpen by committee game on Sunday.
Yeah.
Oh, and that game went into extra innings. They only got 3 innings from Danny Duffy, 8 relievers through 140 pitches. So there's going to be opportunities for Boston late as well as early if Ventura doesn't pitch well.
Yep, more in this game coming up. Rays, Jays, Hap on the mound for the Jays, $1.30, 8 the total. This could go 8.5. Over money's coming in as we tape this. But it's a huge injury with Logan Forsythe going to the DL. Just how big is this injury, Teddy?
Well, that's the beauty of it. Here's Logan Forsythe, And when Logan Forsythe goes to the DL, what do, Paul? Be honest. What do you do when he goes on the DL? You don't even notice it. You
No, that's not
the markets don't pay any attention. Logan Forsythe, whatever, right? Now you start looking at the quotes, and you start seeing what these guys are saying. All right, he's 4.1 in WAR rating last year. He's the number 5 second baseman in MLB, number 38 player overall, 4 wins over replacement. He's 1.5 so far this season. That's the number 22 player overall. Look at the slash line, 308 batting average, 398 on base percentage, 523 slugging percentage, and good defense. Look at the quotes. Manager Kevin Cash, tough blow, no doubt. We're just going to have to find a way to rally around it. Guys will have to step up and fill that void because it's a pretty good void to fill with what he's done for us offensively and defensively. Brad Miller, we have to step up. We have no choice. But, of course, that's a slumping team right now, Pauly, aren't they?
Yeah. How about Hap? I mean, this guy's pitching with confidence, 5-0 with an ERA of 2. You look at the walks per 9 innings, 2.4. It was 3.5 in his career. So, I mean, it's funny in world of sports, you get some confidence, and it's amazing what can happen to a guy.
Yeah, and meanwhile, you talk about confidence, Tampa's got the antithesis of that right now. They were swept in Seattle.
Yeah.
Then they lost 2 out of 3 at home to the previously slumping A's. And the way they lost the finale on Sunday stands out to me. The blown save, and Cash was trying to be cute. He had Colomb face the heart of the order in the 8th, hoping that others can get through the 9th. So what happens? Colomb gets through the 8th. The guy converted 9 straight save chances, and the bullpen blows it in the 9th behind him. So that's a confident sapper, not a positive sign in my mind for a team going up to Toronto. Though Smiley, he got lit up last time out for the Rays, but in 11 innings pitched at the Rogers Center over the last couple of years, he's allowed 2 hits and 0 runs. And he held the Jays to 2 hits in 6 innings when he saw them 3 weeks ago, though this will be Toronto's 3rd time that they've seen him already this season.
Again, live on sportsbookreview.com. Up next, deep dive back to the Warriors and the Thunder in the play of the day on SportsBit. Betting Insight today.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, deep dive back to the Western Conference Finals. Golden State Series price minus $4. Take back on OKC. We'll call it plus 330. Look at this graphic. Points per 100 possessions, offense and defense. On offense, Golden State number 1, OKC number 2. Defense, Golden State number 4, OKC 11th. Rebounding percentage, Golden State's 8, OKC number 1. And pace, Golden State number 2, OKC number 9. So all this talk about the Warriors, defending champs, here they are back in the Western Conference Finals. Teddy, don't sleep on OKC with the post-game experience.
Well, that's just it. I mean, Oklahoma City probably doesn't have the same type of reputation for playoff success as Golden State does. Golden State won a title last year, and the Thunder still searching for that elusive title. That being said, over the last 6 postseasons, with much of the basic core, certainly with Westbrook and Durant as their key guys, the Thunder have won 10 series. Yeah, they've been to the finals. Only Miami has won more series than OKC during this span. That includes San Antonio, with the title under their belt, or the Lakers when they were winning series, and so on and so forth. Only Miami, courtesy of the LeBron years, has more than those 10 series won over the last 6 postseasons. And, of course, here's a quote from Kevin Durant. Obviously, you want the grand prize, and we haven't gotten that yet. But you can't discredit the amount of games we've won in the postseason and how hard it is to win in the postseason. Everyone always talks about championships, which is the most important thing, but to set yourself up and be in position to fight for one every single season and to go deep into the playoffs is definitely something we should be proud of. But we should also know we want bigger things. OKC's hungry here, Pauly.
Yep. And as I mentioned earlier, now Golden State loves to go small. This could be where Kerr has to make the adjustments. And you saw what happened in the finals last year, down 2-1. They went small and they blew out Cleveland in the last 3 games of that series. But the emergence of Steven Adams might make that difficult for Kerr. And that goes back to, again, with Bogut and Adams in OKC beating them up on the boards in the regular season meetings.
Well, exactly. I mean, in the 3 regular season meetings, Oklahoma City was plus 40 in rebounds. We talked about this factor a number of times. That's before Adams was playing as many minutes as he is right now.
Yeah.
And being as big of a factor as he is right now. And Golden State didn't necessarily try to go small in those 3 regular season meetings. So if the Warriors do that, I'm with you. I mean, OKC could win it by the rebounding battle by 20 a game in theory. 15 a game. They could have a huge edge. And that's going to be a big problem for Steve Kerr and company. This Thunder squad now, because again, I really don't like to look too much at regular season meetings at this stage of the campaign. Teams are already 2 playoff series in, and you kind of run the risk of trying to look forward by looking back, and that doesn't always work. But this is a Thunder team that played their best basketball here in the playoffs when slowing it down.
Yeah.
I just wonder if they have the focus to stay that way, or if they're going to get caught at the Golden State tempo. Because even with the rebounding edge that we can expect the Thunder to have, the best rebounding team in modern NBA history, all right, if they're playing at Golden State tempo, it's going to kill them. And of course, the depth concerns, I'm not going to say concerns, but Steve Kerr knows he can trust his reserves.
Yes.
Billy Donovan, he's kind of rolling the dice. Some games are going to be there. I wouldn't guarantee they're going to be there in all 7 games of this series. Should it go 7? Kerr's reserves likely to be there more consistently than Donovan.
Oh, yeah. Well, as we said earlier, the postseason experience and the big game experience, you're right. You can trust those guys because they've been through it and they're champions. And that's a nice edge for Golden State when the starters
but the Thunder,
are out.
I mean, that's not like the whole point of the initial analysis here was that the Thunder have more experience and more winning playoff experience than people give them credit for.
Not this group on the bench, though. Not Dion Waiters and these other guys. I'm not going to say that. Maybe the starters, yes, but I wouldn't say Waiters and these other guys. I mean, I got Iguodala. I have Barbosa. I have Ezeli. I mean, I count on these guys.
And you also have a play of the day for us, don't you?
All right, where are we going? 9:55. Yes, ride the train right back with the Red Sox. The offense continues to crush it, and $1.15. We'll lay it with the Red Sox for the play of the day. 3-2 last week, 3-2 the week before. So we'll try to give you a winner here to start the week. Tomorrow, looking forward to it. Lottery time, baby. Ooh, big for the Lakers, big for a lot of teams. We'll get to the lottery. We'll preview the Eastern Conference Finals Game 1 with the Raptors and the Cavs. That's coming up tomorrow on SportsBit. Betting and Insight today.